Welcome everyone. Adam the Woo here as the recording of this Saturday, August 6, 2022. Very rainy, overcast. Beginning the episode here in Celebration, Florida. Market Square, Fountain. Here at the base of Market Street and Water Street, where they meet together. I'm gonna do something kind of interesting today. Gonna go into a little history of WDW, Walt Disney World, which is celebrating their 50th anniversary. Started in October 1st of last year, runs 18 months, so still another 7-8 months of that. And also Epcot's 40th coming up on October 1st of this year, of 22. And I figured now is as good a time as any, having trouble speaking, to cover some history of the beginnings of Walt Disney World. That's what I'm going to do today. I'm inviting you to join me. Shall you? In fact, the town I reside in has quite a bit of Disney history. Corporation built it and opened it back in 1994, even though they're not affiliated with it. I've covered a little bit of that and probably will in the future. But today I want to focus on the very first cast member that Disney World ever had back in the late 60s, soon after the Florida project was announced with Walt and Roy and the governor of Florida, near Lake Eola at that hotel. I covered that the other day. But a man and his family moved onto property, the first house on property. I'm gonna find it. And even though I probably won't be stepping foot in the parks today, what I'm gonna be showing is out of the parks, but still on property. By looking at the Mickey Power Pole, I am crossing onto WDW property. And I just think I should show the Mickey Power Pole. Ties in. It is pretty amazing to think about. For the first year or two, there really weren't a lot of buildings on property, and the first one had a family living in it as a caretaker to watch over the property. Pretty wild. And the area they lived in is just past what is now known as Disney Springs. Just past it. Now it's kind of interesting that the subject matter brings me to this spot, because I'm going to show what's behind this. This used to be the preview center. I've been here many, many times. Now the Amateur Athletic Union. Now to the public, this was the first building on property that was used as, just to preview the 1971 opening of what was Magic Kingdom, Disney World, later called Walt Disney World. And over there in the distance is the offices of Reedy Creek, which Mr. Smith, who lived on site, had a big hand in. Started that kind. He was a lawyer. So he helped start Reedy Creek, and he lived, it could have ended up being the Disney version of Jack and Wendy Torrance, being out here all alone with your family in the wilderness. There was nothing out here then. Let me walk behind this and show you what I'm talking about. Thankfully, it did not turn into The Shining. That's what I was kind of alluding to. A caretaker, all alone on property for a couple of years, 1966 until 1968. And doing a little bit of research, used a couple different sites that I found and tried to do a little reading up on, the subject matter. There really is not a lot of info on where the building is now or where it exactly precisely stood. But my best educated guess is across this lake, which is known as Buena Vista Lake. Now there are two Buena Vista Lakes. If you look on satellite view, there is a rather large Buena Vista Lake that used to be called Village Lake next to the former Disney Village, which is now called Disney Springs. But this was the original lake called Black's Lake. It's no longer referred to that. In fact, there is another Black's Lake in Central Florida, a few miles away from here. This was more of a swampy area, and you can see still kind of has that. Ooh, there's a bird going by. Has a swamp-like look to it. Now, my recollection, not my recollection, but my best educated guess, which I'm not really very educated, but my best guess is their homestead was right over there. From what I was reading online, there was an article in a D23 newsletter that came out in 2010. It was a hard copy published, and then they reposted it on the interwebs back in like 2018, 2019. Don't quote me on that. But there were a couple photos in that, and the information said that the cabin and airstrip was north of Black's Lake. And this is north. This is Black's Lake. There is a canal, a channel, since then that they carved out leading over to the larger Buena Vista Lake. So there's two Buena Vista lakes. Don't be confused. This is the smaller of the two, and this is one that is shown in all those photos. Well, not all, but just one or two that you can find out there. Okay, taking a look at my phone, the blue dot is where I'm standing at the moment, on the corner of Lake Buena Vista. If you scroll over a little bit, there is the big lagoon in front of Disney Springs where the big balloon is, friendship boats go across, and all of that. So there's a canal now, but the original lake from back in the day is still here. It is that lake, and I am going to assume and guess that right up here near the top of this road, in this wooded area, is where the cabin and airport, not airport, but a landing strip, used to be. Now this is in that D23 magazine from 10, 12 years ago, and also on their website a little bit later. But you can see there's Black Lake. North would be up here where I was just showing there. They have put in where it says shed and hangar, and then up top, house and airstrip. Now this is a different airstrip from the Stoll Port that was built soon after this house was moved over by the Contemporary. But I have to wonder, did Walt fly into that airstrip, or did he fly into, into Orlando and then kind of shuttle over? I'm guessing he probably did not have the plane that's, tie-in at D23 Expo. They say Walt's plane's going to be there. But interesting, there was another airstrip right up here. And what I'm looking at here, as I kind of pan, I was standing in the shadow so you don't get the glare. So that's kind of the angle there. The lake pretty much has the same dimensions, more or less, over 50 plus years, 55 years since then. Park opened in 71. That photo was probably taken in 66. But this lake is the same lake. Now here's a photo of Mr. Smith standing behind a body of water. That is not Black's Lake, not the current lake I'm standing in front of. That was almost like a retention pond that veered off of this. I'll go back to the other photo and show what I'm talking about. Now if you look closely, you got the big body of water I'm standing in front of down below the bottom of the screen. Then there's this smaller body of water, which I believe is the one that's behind the photograph of Mr. Smith standing in front of his house. Now there's a lot of pictures of Walt and Roy and Joe Fowler and others standing and kind of fraternizing and conglomerating around the house and discussing plans. A lot of the photos of Walt with the map are taken on the same day that he was at Mr. Smith and his family's house. He's wearing the same clothes. But I believe the cameraman would have been over here to the right of the house taking photos of Walt and Roy and Fowler and all them, looking across at this little body of water, which kind of panning across would be more or less between this hotel and that little building right over there. And I'm going to try to drive around that way and see if I can even find any remnants or anything. Probably not going to have any luck, but just wanted to use this as a bearing just to give a frame of reference. Here you can see Roy and the other guys. Fowler, I believe Card Walker's in there as well. Roy looking directly at the camera person. And even Walt right over here with a guy that no one has been able to pinpoint who the other guy is standing next to Walt. But Walt looks like he's got his mind in other places, probably very stressed out by what was happening. He didn't really want to join in the conversation with these other guys. And there's Walt's head turned the other way, wearing the little cap, relaxing on the front porch of the caretaker's house. One of the very few photos from back then of the home itself. But supposedly the home still stands. It was moved. And I also found this older map online, some of the plans before it became Disney Springs. But you can see it used to be called Village Lake, which is now what everyone refers to as Lake Buena Vista. But in fact, as stated, Lake Buena Vista is this little tiny lake behind the preview center, right there. Also, it's very interesting. Depending on which satellite image you look at or whatever you're searching for, this is sometimes referred to as Blake's Lake. Blake, B-L-A-K-E-S. Got a lot of different names. Perhaps they just misspelled it. There's also been a couple other articles online, I believe. allears.net is one I stumbled on, and WDW Central. But it is not commonly known outside of those few, and maybe another one or two, It's not a lot of information that's really circulating around out there, so I kind of want to draw attention to it. Also, when I say D23 puts out a monthly publication, D23 is D for Disney, 23 the year the company started, which next year are going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary of the company. And I'm wearing a 1928 Mickey Mouse shirt when Mickey finally reared its head. A lot of anniversaries. Epcot 40th coming up. We're in the midst of WDW's 50. Mickey will be celebrating one in about 5 years. And early next year, the 100th anniversary of the company. But D23 Expo, sometimes I just shorten it and say D23. I'm going to D23 in Anaheim, which is coming up September, second week of September. But in reality, that is the Expo. D23 is a membership that people have had for years and years, and you get things in the mail periodically, especially every month. And that is where the article that this was in back in 2008, 2009, 2010, around there. I know it's kind of confusing. And to be a little bit more specific of everyone that's in that photo, you can read a little bit more about it there on the site. Now, matching up certain photos, like here he is with Card Walker looking at the map, pretty much near impossible because it's nothing but tree lines. But it would be pretty amazing to find some of those spots. Look at Roy over Walt's shoulder. You can just kind of see part of Roy's noggin there. Now, I tried finding the location on the final resting place of Mr. Smith, who passed away 5 or 6 years ago, and there was no information online about that. I found some other information about his passing, but nothing more specific than just the details of that. And so I was going to pay my respects. So really, I'm just going to have to pay my respect just by trying to find exactly where the house was. It's a really big part of Disney history that a lot of people don't realize. Right on the other side of this lake. I'm going to see if I can find an access road and get over there and see if I can maybe walk over into the woods. Might not be the best idea to, walk out in the rain and the bugs and snakes and gators, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Because it is starting to precipitate now. There might be a path through the woods. Maybe someone else has done this. Probably not. And since I'm right here, I might as well show the Reedy Creek building. I'm not really sure what's going on with the whole Reedy Creek situation. There was some big news a while back, but I haven't really kept up with what the follow-up on it is. Is it still going to be called Reedy Creek? I'm now walking along the sidewalk next to the Hyatt Regency Grand Cypress, a whole resort area. Parked down the road, and I'm walking the sidewalk, and I got to cross over and head over towards that wooded area over there at some point, but I'm almost to this destination. Now, this is a little man-made water area here with the waterfall. I'm looking at the satellite image, and you could possibly assume that this is the water where the house would have been that way, and whoever was taking the photos of Mr. Smith looking back this way. But this is man-made. This is not from those photos from the mid-60s. In fact, I need to walk past the newly constructed, which hasn't opened yet, this Drury Hotel, which is where I'm going. Now, here on this resort, there's also a little convention center as well. That's what this building is. And this is more or less where I would need to cross over into the woods, looking at the photo that I was showing and based on the satellite image I'm looking at as I'm walking. Now, earlier I was parked over here off Hotel Plaza Boulevard looking across this way. I'm now standing where this blue dot is, precisely in the middle of the wooded area right there. And I'm noticing there is a path. It's not really a hiking trail, but there is a little bit, maybe I'm getting excited over nothing because, what does this say? Conservation area. I thought this was a pathway at first, but it's not. This is not a path. In fact, there's a lot of standing water down there and a fence, barbed wire fence. No dumping, land clearing, or other disturbance of soils. Yeah, I noticed the barbed wire and chain link fence running along that section. But my estimation would be, so I'm standing at the halfway point of the wooded area looking at a photo. So across, if I went maybe 50, 100 yards, give or take, this is just all my guesstimation. This way is where the house would have been, and then over here was the landing strip. And there was also the one photo that I could see. I could not go to a satellite image back that far. The earliest one was in the 80s, very blurry. And then 95 was the only one that was moderately, sort of, kind of clear enough to even tell anything. This is all looks the same from the 90s as it does now, with the exception of, you know, the resort area over here. But the wooded area, completely grown over since, you know, 65, 66, 67, late 60s, when him and his family were living here. But there's one photo of Walt from a distance going in a car, and I'm noticing on the photo there used to be a little road that ran over here that could have, this is all speculation, could have turned in to the property of the house where they were all seen, you know, hanging around, fraternizing, discussing, looking at maps, things like that, sitting on the porch. And that could have been, the photo could have been right over there, you know, maybe another 20, well, 50 yards that way, cutting across. Maybe. I am very thankful for this one photo, only one photo. I'm very thankful this was posted, because without this, there would be no indication at all. So as they stated, just reiterating what I have seen, which got me really excited, the house there, the shed, the retention pond, which is now gone, all this is grown over, and just a few feet of wooded area, maybe a few yards. Now, you know, a couple hundred yards of woods. You could see there used to be over here, there used to be some trees, possibly some orange trees, some groves, things like that. But take a look at this little road up here. Looks as if there was a road. Now I can walk back and see if there's any pavement that I could find, and I'll show the photo I am referring to. So keep in mind, I am standing up here, kind of where this wooded area starts up here, but it was all cleared out when the family lived there. Well, like I said, all assumptions, but I'm kind of feeling the history. Again, I'm assuming, and you know what they say, when you assume something, you make a you-know-what out of you and me. But could this be that road in the photo where the house would have been way over there, the retention pond? Is this the airstrip here? Not the Stoleport strip over by Contemporary, but is this the one on the map, or from that photo? And there's Walt and Roy and everyone pulling in there. Could that have been the entrance onto where the only building on property? And if it is, it means that road ran parallel down that way. So I'm gonna walk over there and just see if there's any indication, you know, a half a century later. There's probably not gonna be, but it never hurts to try. And just to show a little more specifically, so there's the paved road, or was the paved road, back in the mid-60s, and it looks like there's another little dirt path that could have gone that way, you know, over to the main area, the house, the shed, and all that. Pay no attention to me, bus full of tourists. I am just trying to find some history over here. See, the fence is so old that it's fallen down. The trees have blown over and destroyed the fencing through this area. Yeah, anyone driving by or looking over from the hotel over there is probably thinking, what in the name of heck is that guy doing? To be honest with you, I can't answer that question. I mean, I can answer the question, but I don't know if anyone would accept my answer. I'm matching up one photo from the 60s. Yeah, no pavement. All ripped up, if it even was right here. Another thing that's kind of bizarre, oh, by the way, hello from my shadow. Over this way, they got rid of the barbed wire and the fencing. There's no fencing or barbed wire over here. So does conservation area end back there? Do I want to go trouncing through this? Okay, again, I am incorrect. There is fencing back there. Just kind of disguised and hard to see. Okay, I attempted. You never know till you go somewhere to see if something really exists. But I am going to try to pinpoint where the house was moved to. There is a pinnacle to this. Man, I really want to go through there. But I'm going to say I'm 99% confident there is nothing that you can match up in there. Nothing. If they moved the house, there's probably not even a foundation back there from where the original spot was. I get a kick out of this kind of thing. Is this a hula hoop? Oh no, it's a hose. I thought someone was doing a little hula hooping. But they're just hosing it down. Check this out, there's a little canal there, like a little lock and dam miniature version. And very interesting. I don't know if ironic would be the word, don't you think? Like Alana sang about. But right in this general area, you know, would have been kind of more over right there. Would have been where the landing strip was. But there's a helicopter pad right here. And a little wind tunnel over there. Little tie-in. Modern day. Tie-in to what was here before. Not really, but kind of. Now I can't get the correlation of the Caretaker, Shining, Disney, them living on property right over there. Never snows here, thankfully. I don't get snowed in a blizzard. Walt's not here, Mrs. Torrance. Walt and Roy aren't here, Mrs. Torrance. Now zipping down World Drive to another area, over towards Magic Kingdom. Stopped off at the convenience store just outside TTC, the Speedway, and ended up getting not only a Mr. Pibb, but also a water. So I got a little cola, one of a beverage I really like, had a little Pibbage. Well, it used to be called Mr. Pibb, now it's called Pibb Extra. And then a Smart Water. Maybe it'll make me a little more knowledgeable, but I always like to point out this retro bumper sticker here. WDW, the Vacation Kingdom of the World. Got the family up top there. The Mickey ears on. Pretty cool. Just right over here on the outskirts of Magic Kingdom, right outside the park. Reading this article on the Orlando Sentinel, talking about, you know, Dick Nunes made this quote. He really built a very fine legal organization that really frankly kept us out of trouble. Never had to worry about legal problems under him. Knew we had a very competent guy to take care of it. The Caretaker. One of his biggest accomplishments was helping to create Reedy Creek Improvement District, an unusual government entity which Disney controls its planning, building codes, and emergency services. Or did. I think that's kind of up in the air right now. Imagine having all the property that now is Disney World kind of more or less to yourself. His family picnicked on what became Discovery Island. Because I'm just sitting here browsing the internet a little bit more, trying to get a recollection of what the house looks like. There's really only two photos that I can find. So you got the one here. Looks like there was a garage, or maybe what was a garage on that one side. And then also the porch. Now if the house was moved, I'm going to say that this porch area is where Walt was sitting is not there. But you can see it's a cinder block house. Now on this website, the D23, this is, they show what the house looks like today, or at least within recent years as well. Now I looked on satellite view and I figured out exactly where this was, and appears to be right off the side of the road, kind of over the area I was just heading. And I'm going to see if that works out. So I kind of pulled over, was doing a little more research before getting over there, but appears to be not behind any kind of closed area, just right off the main road. So I'll see what happens. And fun fact, that's where all the Disney buses fill up with fuel. It's a fuel station for Disney buses, right beside the Speedway. Now I cannot go that way, but this says guest areas, Bear Island, this way. Yeah, right here off of Bear Island Road. Just pulling in through here. It's not any gates or anything. I was thinking maybe there'd be something alluding to this being what kind of area this is, but yeah, I'm just driving back here. Now there is a closed off gate there, but over here, just do a little U-turn here. And this is what some say is The original first building on property. Now this could be where Roy was there. This could have been the garage side. Now the roof looks a lot different. Now the articles I was reading, they said that the Smiths, when they moved, they kept the chimney, so maybe they redid the roof, but you could see it is cinder block. I think it was a different color, but they could have repainted it. And I believe maybe around the other side was where Walt was sitting on the porch. This could have been the back side. Of course, the other side is fenced off and gated off, so I can't go through that fence over there. Everything on this side is drivable and walkable, but I don't have permission to go past that. But that's it. What some say, I kind of on the fence with it. I'm going to say it probably is because it was stated on the Disney site. But yeah, there you go, right there. First house ever built on Walt Disney World property. First building. Incredible. Right here before you go into this gated area for Reedy Creek environmental area. All right, pulling back out onto this road and right back over to TTC. Right next to TTC. Probably a quarter of a mile, not even. Pretty interesting history. And that's gonna do it for today. I'll see you in the next video. The vlog is over.